Did the aliens help build the Tower of Babel? Of course they didn't. The aliens didn't help build anything, and it drives me crazy when all these ignorant professors and so-called experts try to go around saying, oh, the aliens, they helped us build that, and they helped us build this, and we couldn't have built the pyramids without the help of the aliens, and nobody knows how they did it because their level of craftsmanship it exceeds our technology today. No, what it really is you just have a bunch of white-collar people saying that something couldn't have been done because they've never built anything. Have you ever worked around a real carpenter? I mean, a real old-fashioned woodworking carpenter? Or watched somebody carve a perfect cube out of a piece of marble? I mean, it's incredible what man can do. So just because you don't know how to do something doesn't mean that somebody else doesn't know how to do it. And so here's the basis of our story today, and this will be a short one. I was going to skip this story and go on and start into the life of Abraham, but I was on the way home last night and I was talking to my kids, and they don't know the story of the Tower of Babel. And so I just figured I'd tell it to you in a few minutes too. So we come here to Genesis chapter number 11, and this is only, I think, 8 or 9 verses. So rather than try to paraphrase through the story and pick out the highlights of Scripture, I'm just going to go ahead and read it to you real quick, and then we'll talk about it and be done for the day. We see here in chapter number 11, verse number 1, and the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar. And they dwelt there. And they said one to another, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. Remember that's important. And they had brick for stone, and slime they had for mortar. And they said, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto the heaven. And let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men builded. And the Lord said, behold, the people is one, and they have one language. And this they began to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them. And now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. Let us go down, and there confound their language, and they may not understand one another's speech. So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence, upon the face of all the earth. And then it says in verse number 9, therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth. And so this story picks up where we left off talking about Noah and the ark. And if you remember, and think about this, okay? If you remember, when they get off the ark, they literally have reset the world's population. Nobody survived anywhere else. Nobody held up in a cave anywhere or anything like that. There were only 8 human beings that were alive after the flood. And so the population of the whole world has been reset to these 8 people. Now, what's interesting about that is, if we continue to go down through time, and I've got a wonderful chart that I could show you this on sometime, but if we continue to go down through time, what we see is the simple truth that every single country, people, kind, kindred, every single race can all be traced back to one of the 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Okay? But at this point in time, this is not long after the flood, but not long, I can't give you an exact year, but this is not so long after the flood, but it's long enough where there's gotten to be a good many people. They have repopulated quite a good bit, and now they're setting up the first major civilization after the flood. And we see here that the people, they decided that they wanted to build a great tower in their city. And now the cool part about this is, and this is why I was talking about the aliens and all that, the cool part about this is in verse number 3, it says, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. So up until now, they have figured out how to use bricks. They knew how to use bricks. But we're at a point in civilization where technology has evolved to where they have figured out that rather than just take some clay and shape it into a brick and stick it out and let it dry out in the sun, if they will take that same clay, shape it into a brick, and then put it in the fire and burn it thoroughly with a high heat, that it will produce a brick that is much stronger than one that they could just dry out in the sun. And so, why does the brick matter? Well, it matters because of this. If you have weak bricks, there's only so high that you can build before your weight of the bricks starts to collapse the lower bricks in the structure, and thus you can't build any higher. And so they would try to get around this by building, what we would think of as like pyramids, the ziggurats, I think they're called. I don't know, but that's just the pyramids with the more stair-step look to them. And so they would try to get around it by that, but even then, you still would reach your limitations to how high you could go. But when they figured out that they could burn brick and to make it stronger, now they can build a lot higher. And so there's a lot of speculations people have done figuring about how, oh, this brick could support this amount of weight and blah, blah, blah. It really doesn't matter. They went really high. They started building really high. All the people were of one language. They were all working together, but they were working together toward a common goal that wasn't pleasing to the Lord. See, what had happened here is they had up and decided that, well, instead of getting to heaven the way God said to, instead of reaching the heavens, instead of reaching God the way that he said to, kind of like Cain, they said, we just want to do it our way. And so we're going to try to control it. And so this is kind of, if you're wondering, oh, why did God do this? He's so evil. He's so mean. No, he's not. He is disrupting the wicked plan of man. And the wicked plan of man was that we are going to take into our own hands controlling if we can get to heaven. Now, of course, it wouldn't work. I mean, we've got skyscrapers that go thousands of feet in the air now, and I don't think anybody has made it to heaven yet that way. But nonetheless, God is going to come and mess up their plan. He sees this, and he came down, and he literally just snapped his fingers, and they were all scattered abroad, not knowing what each other was saying. Now, can you just imagine this? All right, I've worked on a lot of construction sites in my day, and I understand the disparity of just trying to communicate with somebody of one other language, okay? But just imagine you're on a construction site with a few hundred people, maybe a few thousand people, and then you go around to read off a measurement to your guy down there, and he responds in Chinese, and you're talking English. And then you look over to your other buddy and you say, hey, what did he say? And then he responds in Spanish. And you can't figure out what's going on, so you go and talk to the foreman, and he starts telling you what's going on in German. You don't understand what he's saying, and so on and so forth. And so all these different languages now, and listen, this is a supernatural work of God, okay? He didn't just strike them all dumb, okay? Like dumb as in they couldn't speak. He just changed their language. And so now, all of a sudden, now you had this group of people over here that they were speaking this language. They were speaking maybe Chinese, and then they were speaking, Arabic, and, maybe they were speaking Hebrew, and they were speaking English, and so on and so forth. And I'm just making up the languages, but you get the point. And so now, what God has done in a very intelligent way, he has made it to where there's no way they're going to be able to get this building project done, because now they can't communicate, and they have been divided up. So much so that there's not a group big enough left to continue with this building project. And then, naturally, the people that spoke each other's languages, they have now paired off and went their own separate ways and kind of went to their own separate group, because it's not fun hanging around people that you can't communicate with. And so they went off into their separate groups, and now this is where the world starts to spread out. And I do believe, and I'm not going to go into all this, but I do believe there was an even grander design of God in all this, to help spread the people out, and to help get the people out, to help fill up this earth, because God loves us, and he wants us to multiply, because the more of us there is, the more glory we can bring to him, the more we can love him, the more he can love us, the more of us that there is to love. But nonetheless, the story of the Tower of Babel. A bunch of people got together and decided, we're going to build a tower to heaven. And God said, no, you're not. You can't build a tower to heaven. And so the moral of the story is this. There's only one way to get to heaven. And that way is by putting your trust and faith in Jesus Christ, that he paid your sin debt in dying on the cross. He laid down his life that you might be able to live. He conquered death, hell, and the grave, and he got up again 3 days later. And one day he's coming back for us. But if you die right now, do you know where you'd spend eternity? Because I'll go ahead and tell you, you're not going to be able to get to heaven by building a tower. And you're also not going to be able to get to heaven by doing any other works. It's only going to be by faith that you're going to be able to get to heaven. It's only going to be by the blood that we find in Adam and Eve, the blood that we find in Cain and Abel's story. It's only going to be by the salvation that we find in Noah's story. And it's only going to be by doing things God's way and not trying to go around Him to get to heaven. I hope you enjoyed this today. I know this has been a quick one. There's probably going to be some more quick ones to come. This has been a Bible story, the story of the Tower of Babel. I'm Tristan with the Tree Smiths. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.